Hello, everyone. My name is Don Ames. I'm the manager of admissions and recruitment for the graduate diploma in immigration and citizenship law. As people start to come into the webinar, we will just hold off a little bit. We're going to give people a few more minutes to arrive. So just go ahead and wait. We will be beginning the presentation shortly. When it comes to questions, what we're asking people to do is to hold off on asking their questions until we hit the Q&A portion of the presentation. So don't start populating anything with questions. No need to raise your hand because we're not going to be taking any verbal questions for this presentation. So just wait on those questions until we reach the Q&A section. Then we'll be able to populate the Q&A box with your questions at that point. So just hold off until we get to that portion. And we're just going to wait a few more minutes as people show up. So thank you very much. All right, everyone, we've reached 2:30, so we'll go ahead and begin this. Looks like we've got a healthy group of individuals here with us, so thank you very much for being a part of today's presentation. For those of you who have just joined us, my name is Don Ames. I am the manager of admissions and recruitment for the Graduate Diploma in Immigration and Citizenship Law, or GDIP-ICL for short. The intention of this presentation is another webinar in our series in preparing individuals who are looking to apply for winter 2023 or for future cohorts with further information about the application process, what's necessary, and how we can assist you in getting your questions resolved, and to really aid your process in getting your application in successfully to our program. Now, if you have attended any of my webinars in the past before, some of the information will be familiar to you, though I've tailored it a little bit differently this time because there is some new information, having gone through a full sequence of admissions for myself in this role. I have some tips to provide to the individuals here today to really help you out with the application process. If for anybody who is here in attendance who has applied for fall 2022, and you're either awaiting information about the admission process or you've received information from us and you want clarity, we're not going to be providing you responses today. This is not geared for fall 2022 applicants. This is more geared towards individuals who are looking at applying for 2023 or who already have an application in for winter 2023. So if you are here with a fall 2022 application, We appreciate your attendance, but you don't necessarily have to be here, but you can always monitor this on our Facebook page afterwards. Speaking of which, let's talk briefly about some housekeeping, and then we will get into our land acknowledgement, the very important component of our presentation. This session is being recorded. We do have plans to post it on our Facebook page. If you haven't found us on Facebook, definitely go ahead and find our page and like it. You'll be able to receive a bunch of great information throughout the weeks as we post new and relevant posts all the time. We also provide a lot of great admission details there, and we do post the video of these presentations up there as well. So if you didn't attend any of my previous sessions, you'll be able to see those videos by scrolling back into May of our Facebook feed there at the front. So by all means, definitely do take a look at those and look for this video as well. There's no need to raise your hand in this presentation. We're not accepting any verbal questions from the group. So if you have your hand up, you can go ahead and put that down. We're not going to be utilizing that functionality at all here today. Even if it's just a polite say hello, kind of waving, that's completely fine. We welcome everybody here. No need to say hello to the team, but we do appreciate your attendance here today. What we ask you to do is what I ask people at the beginning of this presentation. We don't want you to utilize the Q&A box quite yet. There's an icon that has two little word bubbles that says Q&A. That's where you're going to be able to ask your questions, but don't utilize it. We're asking people to hold their questions until the end of the presentation when we get to the Q&A portion, just because we find that a lot of the questions that are asked are answered through the materials that I'm going to be providing. So hold off on that. If you're having any technical issues, if you see the presentation but you can't hear it, or if you hear it, can't see it, we encourage you to leave the presentation and come back in via the same link. If you're still having issues, restart your computer and return. If there's still issues, unfortunately, there's not much that we can do on our end. We encourage you to review the video when it becomes available. All right, let's get into our first point here, which is our acknowledgement of territory. So Queen's University is situated on the traditional unceded lands of the Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee territories. I consider myself extremely fortunate to live in Canada and in Kingston, Ontario. Canada is a great country, but we have a past that needs acknowledgement. The atrocities committed against the Indigenous peoples of Canada must always be recognized, and action must be taken to educate and resolve any wrongs that have happened and are still coming to light even now. This land acknowledgement is a drop in a larger bucket of ensuring constant awareness of where we are, who we are, and the history we must never forget. We acknowledge where we are and who these lands belong to, and we will continue to support our Indigenous communities in their fight for justice, fairness, and equity. So thank you very much for that. So our agenda for today, just going to give you the very briefest of overview of the program. We are a couple months into the application, and we do have a really great website. So you're here because you know a little bit about the program. And really, there's not much that I'm going to be able to provide in that regard. The application process is our main focus. We're going to take a look there. We're going to talk about some FAQs, some frequently asked questions, and then we're going to get into the Q&A. And again, I do see that a question has come into the Q&A. We ask you to hold off on your questions until the Q&A section. A lot of the information is going to be covered in this presentation, so don't ask questions quite yet. And that's just what I said there. All right, so just a little bit of brief information about the GDIP ICL, or the Graduate Diploma in Immigration and Citizenship Law. Some key highlights of the program. We are delivering this program entirely online. That was the main purpose of developing this program, was to present it in an online format. Even before COVID hit, the plan was for this to be an online program, and we've been through now several cohorts. We've graduated several classes at this point. We have a great number of people who are in the program and who have now completed it. And we're looking to continue this process with the momentum that we've already gained by bringing in even new and great students for our program. We are the only English language pathway to being viable or eligible to write the College of Immigration and Citizenship Consultants, or the college for short, the Regulated Canadian Immigration Consultant Entry to Practice Exam, or the RCIC EPE. So it's us And there's a French institution, the Université de Montréal, that has the French language program. These are the only two pathways to become a regulated Canadian immigration consultant and to gain the credential of the graduate diploma in immigration and citizenship law. It's a great opportunity to have some fantastic studies at one of Canada's most well-known post-secondary institutions in a graduate level program, being taught by world-renowned experts and instructors. It's a fantastic collection that we've been able to amalgamate, especially considering we are the exclusive partner with the college to be that English language educational pathway. There are 9 courses total in our program. You take all 9 to complete it, and then you can become eligible for the EPE, or you can take this education and do a lot more with it. One of the key things that we really promote with an online offering is that much of the learning is done through self-direction and self-directed learning opportunities. You'll be doing quite a bit outside of the classroom. Readings, online interactions, work through our OnQ online portal. There'll be quizzes and exams and tests that you'll be taking kind of on your own time. The only structured scheduled time that you have to be in attendance for are the mandatory tutorials. There's 1 per week per course. And typically they're 2 hours. For the final course in the program, ICL 890, it's a 3-hour tutorial. But the way that the majority of the education is conducted, it's through that self-directed learning. We really encourage you that if you're really interested in this program, take a look at what self-directed learning is and find out if the program's right for you. It's a lot of understanding your own abilities to manage time, to be able to meet targets and expectations of the program on a weekly basis. To be able to get yourself motivated to study on your own time. So it really is key to understand yourself and how you study and to see how it fits with the program. So there's lots of different things that you can do with our studies. And this diagram here kind of demonstrates what kind of the pathway looks like to becoming a regulated Canadian immigration consultant, or to take our education and to do other professional endeavors with it. Everybody is here at the far left. You're kind of at that applicant stage. You're thinking about applying. Maybe you've already applied. There's still a few steps before you get to that kind of end goal, but it's good to visualize what the sequence of events looks like. The first arrow there represents what I'm trying to educate you on, which is the admission process. It's how we get our applicants to become students. And then, of course, from students, you do the coursework, you complete our 9 courses, you graduate from the program, and then the opportunities for you kind of bifurcate at that point. You either go on to take the college's entry to practice exam, you're eligible for it at that point. Or maybe you're not interested in taking this program to become an RCIC. Maybe you want to do other things with it. That's when you can take it and do other professional endeavors. There's lots available to you, and it's really important that you understand what your end goal is, because it's what we actually ask you on the application. What are your intentions with the program? What are you going to do with it post-graduation? We want to understand what you really want to do with this education. Again, I just want to bring up, I'm seeing another question in the Q&A. Hold off on your questions for now. We're asking those to be held until the end of the presentation. Again, a lot of the information that's going to be provided is probably going to be covered here in this presentation. So just hold off on utilizing the Q&A at this point. So let's talk about where we are with the application process. There are 2 upcoming application cycles. The big one for us happened right now, like it's happening as of May 1st. It's the winter 2023 application. So our application system is going to remain open until August 1st. So for those of you who are thinking about attending our program in winter 2023, you have just a little over a month now to get that application into us. All documents need to be submitted for those people who are applying or have applied for winter 2023 to be in by September 15th. So the key component is to make sure that you upload your transcripts and documents with your application. But if that's not possible, you still have the option of providing your documents after your application is submitted. And you have to do that by September 15th. So keep those key dates in mind. If you haven't applied, August 1st is the deadline. If you have applied, September 15th is that last deadline to get your documents into our office. Decisions are typically made It's sometime in October or November, but it'll vary depending on how many applications we have and how much we can do. The other application cycle that we're looking into is fall 2023, which will begin on October 1st. That application will be open October 1st till April 1st of next year. And we need documents in by May 15th. But there's going to be plenty of opportunities to talk about fall 2023 and all future cohorts once we get more into that cycle. I'll be doing some additional webinars probably in early fall, late summer on fall 2023. It's a longer period of time because we bring in more students in the fall. Winter cohorts for us are smaller. So just keep that in mind. It'll be less competitive to apply for the fall, but if you're looking at getting in to our program as quickly as possible, that's the opportunity for you. And if anybody is here thinking that they're interested in fall 2022, starting the program up this September, that's unfortunately not a possibility for you anymore. That application closed on April 1st. We're not accepting any students for fall 2022. We've already got all of our applications in the system. We're actually starting to process our offers. So that is closed up. There are different types of applications for our program. There's 5 specific ones that I want to cover, 3 of which will really go in depth today, 2 of which are not as important or relevant to a lot of the information that you may be seeking. The key ones are full-time and part-time. So full-time students, they can complete our program in just under 12 months. It's 3 consecutive terms, and you take 3 courses per term. Part-time students, they complete the program anywhere between 24 to 36 months, so 6 to 9 terms consecutively. You take sometimes 1, sometimes 2 courses. It'll vary on it'll depend on the study plan that's developed for you. And sometimes there may be a term where you don't need to take anything at all, just depending on what courses are being offered at any given term. So those are the key ones that you need to think about. And when I stress the importance of reviewing our full-time offering, you need to treat full-time studies like a full-time job. And as I've mentioned, you're doing a lot of this on your own time, like self-directed. You need to kind of coordinate your own schedule with the work. So that's why we really emphasize the importance of time management and understanding how much you do or what you're able to do, which is maybe why part-time study is available for you. However, one of the things we need to consider when it comes to part-time is that we only offer part-time on a very limited basis. And for winter, it's extremely difficult to acquire a part-time study plan just because it's just not something that we're able to provide to everybody or all of those who apply for part-time studies for winter. If you are really interested in part-time studies, I encourage you to think about fall. Those are the times that we are able to offer a few more part-time study options. We really encourage you to consider full-time when it comes to our winter cohorts. The other pathway that I want to talk about is the access pathway. So these applications, either full-time or part-time, will be expressed. I'll define that a little bit more in the presentation, but these are for individuals who may not meet the admission standards as we set out. And I'll detail all of that soon, but access is another pathway for those individuals that you can acquire access to our program via just a different procedure. All of the same admission rules still apply, but they kind of can be a little bit more taken into consideration against some additional information by our admissions committee. So keep that in mind. The other two application types are interest students for program credit or for no program credit. So these are individuals who apply actually differently. You don't apply through the School of Graduate Studies and Postdoctoral Affairs website. You apply via our program website, and they have a different pathway into the program. Interest students for no program credit actually don't migrate into the full-time program. These are students who are maybe looking at taking courses for professional development opportunities, for upgrading, who just want to attend and review the materials. For interest students for program credit, you can take up to 4 classes. You still have to meet all of the admission requirements. And then at that point, you may apply to enter the full-time program. If you really want to complete the GDIP ICL, the entire graduate diploma, I encourage you to apply via the SGSPA system. Don't consider the interest student for program credit unless there are some really extenuating circumstances that need you to limit the amount of courses that you can take. Speak to us via our email address, immigrationdiploma@queensu.ca, for more information about interest student. It's a very rare thing. I wouldn't encourage anybody to really take too much time or consideration in that, unless you are a professional who's interested in just some educational opportunities, or there's a real need for you to take interest. One of the key things I want to flag at this point, because we do start talking about the application, is that the application fee through the SGSPA system is non-refundable. So you really need to understand the type of applicant that you are before you pay your $110. And if you make a mistake on your application, you may have to reapply and repay that application fee. So that's, again, why I encourage you to only apply once. Know what you're getting into and know what you want to apply for, so that you're only paying that application fee to SGSPA at one time. There's no benefit to applying multiple times. We really do encourage you to just hold off, know what you want to apply for, and then when you're ready, that's when you submit your application. Seeing more questions come in via the Q&A, please hold off on filling up the Q&A at this point. We will get to that later on in the presentation. There's still plenty of information that I need to deliver. Just document them somewhere. Don't add them to the Q&A so that you can add them at a later point. There are various elements to the application that you really need to be aware of: your personal information, date, birth date, name, address, those sorts of things. Again, make sure you fill out those pieces correctly. We have had individuals who have put errors in their first name or surname. Those don't get changed in the application system. Corrections can't be made. So make sure you fill out everything correctly. Program details, what you're applying for, full-time, part-time, or access. There are personal statement of interest questions. We actually have 2 on our application. I've already mentioned one. We want you to tell us what you're going to do post-graduation. The other question that we ask you is, what is your motivation to apply? Why are you interested in taking this program? Really outline for us who you are in these questions and why you should be granted admission into the program. This is your opportunity to really sort of shine a light on who you really are and to help our admissions committee understand who the applicant is. We can take all of the numbers and the quantitative data as best as we can and process that, but we want to get to know you a little bit. So that's why we ask those 2 questions. Make sure that your statements are well written. They're written in your own voice. They're written by you. And what I encourage people to do is to, in a Word document, is to take their answers and kind of limit themselves to 200 words, roughly about 2,000 characters, and kind of type them out, spell check them, make sure it's all grammatically there, you have all the information in, and then you copy and paste those into the application system, just so that you can kind of work on this now before you submit your application officially. Access pathway consideration is another question we ask. We also need you to tell us about your English language proficiency, if you meet our exemption requirements, or if you need to submit an English language proficiency test, or ELPT for short. We will get to that. I'm sure there are a ton of questions about the ELPT. We will definitely cover that later on in this presentation. Another key component of the application are references, and that is something I'm going to stress explicitly in this presentation, because these are kind of the tips and tricks that we want to provide you when it comes to your application. So more on that coming in the coming slides. Then there's sign off and payment. And again, we want you to have a fulsome application when you submit it, so that you're not having to resubmit anything and pay the $110 again, because $110 is nothing to sneeze at. It's important money, and we want to make sure that you're applying with the correct information. This is where we start to get into kind of the little details that I want to provide out to the group here. A little bit more information about, now with my experience having gone through a fairly large admission process with the fall 2022 cohort. These are things I want to stress with the group here today to encourage you to know what you should be submitting with your application. The key one here is your transcripts. There's a lot of individuals who apply to our program who have misconceptions about what is required when it comes to their post-secondary history. Now, the primary basis of admission for our program is a completed bachelor's degree or an undergraduate degree with a B average. That's the primary basis of admission. It's what we have to see in a lot of our applicants. Access pathway applicants are different. We'll talk about that later. So if you've completed your bachelor's, we're going to need to see that transcript. Your transcript should outline when your degree was conferred. It should have all of your courses and grades provided. If you have a copy of your degree, your actual certificate, include that as well. The key thing to do here is to get PDF copies in English, black and white, uploaded with your application. That's the primary thing I would recommend for anybody to do, is to start thinking about their bachelor's transcripts and getting those ready. One of the important things to acknowledge here with transcripts is that we're going to need to see all of your transcripts. So make sure that if you've done any previous study, like say you did you attended two different universities. So for example, if you attended the University of Ottawa for a year because you lived in Ottawa and you just wanted to go local, but then you transferred over to York University, say, we need to see both of those transcripts for our assessment purposes, because you're probably going to receive some transfer credit. And everything that you do in undergraduate all combines together when we're doing our assessment. So that means if you've done any international exchange, or if you kind of migrated around several different institutions. I mean, we've seen transcripts where we've seen applications where people have attended 4 or 5 or 6 different just universities doing their undergraduate. We need to see that all. So make sure you're able to acquire all of those transcripts for the assessment process. Additionally, we need you to outline all of your post-secondary. So we need to also see if you did any master's, PhD, or diploma programs as well. So make sure that you're able to highlight all of those that you've attended. And don't think that you just need to present your most recent or your highest level. So if you completed your PhD, fantastic. We definitely want to see your application. But we need to see also your master's and your undergrad and any other post-secondary that you've done. So make sure you include everything as you apply, and that you've identified all of the different institutions that you've attended on the application. If you've attended more than what the application can house, definitely provide those that are relevant to the program specifically. So your undergraduate, your master's, your PhD, your diplomas. Don't worry about providing anything from professional upgrading. So if you're a CPA, a certified practicing accountant, I don't know what professional accountant, thank you. If you're a CPA and you had to take some upgrading courses at a university or a college, we don't need to see that. We don't need to worry about anything about health and safety or WMIS or any upgrading, unless it attributed back to your undergraduate degree. Don't worry about adding in any professional designations. Focus purely on the post-secondary studies. So this slide here details the upload process. Really do encourage you to do PDF copies of any of your official transcripts, or having your transcripts delivered directly from your post-secondary institution. If they're able to send you a digital copy, great, upload that with your transcript. If you submit your application and you haven't uploaded all of your transcripts, you can no longer submit them on your behalf. You can't send them into the School of Graduate Studies and Postdoctoral Affairs and on your behalf and ask them to be added to your application. At that point, you're going to have to get them sent in from your previous post-secondary institutions. So contact the registrar's office of your universities, your colleges. Tell them that you need transcripts sent to Queen's, and here are the methods of which you can do that. You can have them sent via email to grad.studies@queensu.ca. You can have them faxed in. I believe the fax number is on their website. I don't think I have it on my presentation, but there is a fax option. Of course, with the pandemic, email has been the easiest. Also, you can have your transcripts mailed. We know that we have a lot of international applicants who did their schooling in international institutions, and mail is the only option, like physical mail. Here is the address you should be documenting, because you need to get those transcripts sent in. If you come from a country where your transcripts are only in a language that is not English or French, you'll have to have them translated and delivered into the school. So you can have your transcripts sent by your school to a translation organization, or have the school translate them themselves and then send it in. But we're going to have to see those transcripts. So make sure that they get sent in as soon as you can for the admission process. And like I said, September 15th is that document deadline for winter 2023. Here's an example of what we mean by a transcript. Some of you probably already know this, completely fine. But one of the things I've found as I've been working on my own application files for fall 2022 is that we get a lot of kind of misnomers about what people think an official transcript is. Official transcripts, you should be scanning both front and back copies unless the back of the page is blank. Because it really does highlight, as you can see on the right-hand side of the screen there, that there's some details that we'll need in our assessment. We'll need to see what an A is on your school's scale so that we can convert it to the Queen's University scale. We need to see, like it says on the left-hand side there, that it is an official transcript, that it outlines your semesters, the courses you've taken, the grades that you've received. If you failed anything, heaven forbid, hopefully that's not the case, but if that did happen, we need to see if there were retakes occurring, what was included, what was excluded. And if you are currently in progress with something, so say you're just completing your bachelor's this summer, you're going to have to send us probably something with your application. So you upload whatever you have, but you're going to have to also send a finalized copy by that September 15th deadline. So keep that in mind. You're going to need to submit a completed transcript as best as you can if you're currently in progress with something. If you've already completed it, make sure that the copy that you are able to upload is up to date. There's nothing outstanding. We've had people think that they have an up-to-date transcript and it's back from 2015 when they still haven't completed everything. That was just the transcript they had. Make sure you include that. Also, you need to include transcripts for programs that you didn't complete. If you have any post-secondary history, if you have some study at university, include that as well. Every little bit that we have is important. And like I mentioned, if you have any transfer credit, international exchange, anything from other institutions that aren't highlighted on your main transcript, we'll need to see those as well. These are not transcripts. So some of you may have WES credentials. Maybe you've had your transcripts assessed by a third party. WES, IQAS, I believe is the other organization. We don't accept those in place of transcripts. So just keep that in mind. We need to see the actual transcripts as they kind of look here, however your school produces them. We don't accept WES. We would accept WES in support of your application. You can email those with you can upload them with your application, but you must include those main transcripts. Also, you can see on the left here, that's an example of a degree certificate, a copy of a degree certificate. We will need to see those in conjunction with your transcript. So go ahead and upload everything that you have. We can't just accept that, oh, we see that you have completed the program. We actually need to convert GPAs and course marks and understand your course history and your grade history in order to see if you meet our B average. So we need to see these, not these solely. We need to see those in conjunction with your previous transcripts. Another note here, as I've mentioned, just make sure you include everything that you can. If there's anything that says transfer credit, if you've attended other institutions, make sure you include those, as well as the place where you actually completed your degree, your master's, your PhD, or what have you. And here's the fax number. Fantastic. So here are the places where you can submit your transcripts. Again, once you've completed your application, if you still need to send in transcripts, you email grad.studies@queensu.ca. There's the fax number, and there's the physical mail address. You'll be able to pause the video once we post this on our Facebook page to capture those, or just head over to the SGSPA website, and you'll be able to find that information there. English language proficiency test is the other area that I like to talk about when it comes to this application, because a lot of people ask us about ELPT requirements. We have processed a lot in our fall 2022 application cycle, and I think we've got some great things that we can provide out to individuals on a specific case-by-case basis. Unfortunately, we don't have that opportunity in this session. We're not going to be able to get to everyone's questions about their own specific ELPT key requirements. So I encourage you to review the materials that are here today. I'm going to provide as much as I can, but if you have any specific questions that you want answered that aren't answered in this presentation, email us afterwards and we'll try to provide you with as much information as we can. There are 3 conditions when it comes to receiving an English language proficiency test exemption. Only 3. So please keep that in mind and really take them to heart. Don't try to think that you're close to an exemption or that you might fit in, because our program is pretty stringent when it comes to sticking to these requirements. Because now the College of Immigration and Citizenship Consultants no longer requires individuals eligible to take the entry to practice exam to submit ELPT scores. Our program is the only place that that's going to be a requirement, because you then take a full year of study or 2 or 3 years of part-time study. That's enough English language proficiency in a very impactful, high intensity program in English. So there's no requirement at the college level, which is why we adhere the requirements here at this level. So the 3 exemptions are: you are a native English speaker. And the way that we define that is that you have been speaking English as the primary language for your life. You did not learn English as a secondary language in any sort of educational function. And the country of origin, your birth country, has English as their official language, one of their official languages. So very specific there, so keep that in mind. The second exemption may apply to some of you. You have attended full-time studies at an accredited university within 12 months of your application in which the education was provided solely in English. So there's some key points here. Full-time studies. You need to have attended full-time, not part-time. Accredited university. College programs, professional programs, those do not count. It has to be at a university. So for example, York University, University of Toronto, University of Ottawa, Queen's, we're universities. Humber, Algonquin, those are colleges in Ontario. Don't count the same as a university for the ELPT exemption. Keep that in mind. Within 12 months of your application. So it needs to be within the last year from the date that you apply. So if you were to apply on July 1st, if you attended school in 2020 and it ended on July 1st, that doesn't count anymore, because that's beyond the 1 year allowable. If you completed your study back in 2021 and you were full-time and it was at, say, Brock, great. You might be able, it looks like you meet the ELPT exemptions. For anybody else, you're not going to meet those exemptions, and we're probably going to require an ELPT from you if you don't meet those 2 exemptions there, if you're not a native English speaker and if you haven't done your education. The third exemption is a little bit different, and it's not going to apply for winter applications. We've just changed this recently. So if you wish to complete the Queen's School of English ESLA 150 program, English for Academic Purposes, what we're looking for our fall applicants is that if you are interested in this, you apply for that on your application. You would take the program throughout the fall if you're admissible into the program. If you then complete ESLA 150 with a minimum A grade, you're then able to migrate into the program full time. We don't have the option to do this for our winter applicants. So for anybody who's interested in applying for winter 2023, you're going to have to really consider utilizing those first 2 or submitting an English language proficiency test. So really think about this. We are pretty stringent when it comes to this requirement. There are very, very few opportunities that we would even consider additional exemptions. We really want you that if you need to provide your ELPT, you should provide it with your application. And of course, we accept very specific ELPTs for admission, and we'll get into that here shortly. Yep. So on question 4 of the application, basically, you're just going to utilize 1 or 2. You just let us know English is your native language or you meet the requirements. Don't write anything else in this question. And if you don't meet any of those requirements, you will have to submit your ELPT directly to the School of Graduate Studies and Postdoctoral Affairs. Let's talk about what happens if you don't meet the exemption. So like I said, you're not a native English speaker. You haven't completed education in English full-time. You put in question like point 3 there in the answer to the question. And here are the approved ELPT scores: CALE Computer Edition, IELTS Academic, or TOEFL, both the internet-based and paper-based test. Now, some of you may have immigrated to Canada recently and you've completed an IELTS General, so you've done that for your immigration process. We don't accept that. So keep that in mind. We have to see an IELTS Academic, CALE, CE, or TOEFL IBT or PBT. The scores for those are very, very simple. CALE is an overall 70 with no component under 70. So there's 4 different components within CALE. So it's 70 basically all around. For IELTS Academic, it's a 7.5 overall with no band under 7, or maybe it's a 7.0. I will ask one of my team members to clarify that with me in the chat. And then the TOEFL has a very specific number. I believe it's 101 for one of the tests. And there's a great website. Our program website has all of the admission requirements here for these specific tests. Make sure you review it and know what test you want to take. Make sure that you know what the requirements are and that you're able to achieve that. We don't combine tests, so you can't take several attempts at, say, IELTS or CALE and put them together. It all has to be on one specific test. Looks like my team is just telling me IELTS Academic is 7.0 overall with 7 in all components, nothing under a 7. Perfect. Thank you very much, team. These are the tests that we don't accept. IELTS General, as I mentioned, CELPIP, Duolingo. Those are ones that you're gonna have to do something different if you have any of those available to you. Also keep in mind that your ELPTs must be done within 24 months of your application date. So anything beyond, say, July 1st, 2020 is not going to be admissible for the program. So if you have to redo those, start looking at the test availability and start thinking about which one you want to take. One final point. ELPT scores are required throughout the admissions process. We need to see your ELPT score to make a decision on your application. This is not something that you're going to receive a conditional offer from us and then submit it later. We need to see that, and you'll have to submit it by September 15th. We will be reviewing applications and we'll notify you if we need to see something, but we really encourage you to be proactive. If you need to submit it, if you don't meet the requirements, go ahead and start prepping for that now. Pick the test that you want to do. Make sure you can achieve the score requirement within that test, and make sure you can submit those scores with your application. Keep that in mind. References. Let's talk briefly about references before we kind of jump ahead to the Q&A. References, I have found now in reviewing the fall 2022 application, is the biggest problem for getting applications finalized because they're outside of the applicant's control. These are 2 individuals that receive emails from the School of Graduate Studies, and basically your application is then in their hands. And I have seen several dozen, almost 100 applications throughout the entire history of this program not be finalized because the applicant didn't know that the reference didn't provide their documents. And there's lots of different things that you can do to help prevent that from occurring to your application. So here are the references that you need. Every application needs 2. It depends on your application type about which applications you actually need to provide. If you attended a post-secondary institution within the last 5 years from the point of your application, you're going to have to get an academic reference as well as a professional reference. If for some odd reason you're unable to acquire an academic reference, if you didn't really connect with any professors or instructors, anybody in the program, if it's been 5 years, like almost at that cusp of being outside of the 5 years, you can provide an additional professional reference. That's fine. But if you can provide an academic reference, that would be great. For everybody else, if you've completed studies outside of that 5-year window, 2 professional references are needed. And here's what a professional reference is. It's a manager or supervisor you have professionally worked with in either a paid or unpaid voluntary position. So basically your manager, your supervisor, someone who had kind of a governance over you and a team in a workplace. Either you were getting paid for the work you were doing or you were doing something voluntarily. We need to see something from someone who had a role of authority in your workplace. And it needs to be someone who can speak to your ability to work and communicate in a professional environment. It would be great if you could use the CEO of a company, but if they've never worked with you and they don't really understand who you are, they're not going to be able to provide a fulsome reference on your behalf. An academic reference is something very similar, but more in the academic field. Professor, instructor, TA, who again kind of interacted with you directly in an academic setting. And again, it's someone who can talk about how you managed your coursework, how you did on your in-classroom activities. Were you attentive? Were you in attendance? Things like that. So know your references and make sure that you're speaking to these references and you're getting the information into the references that you need. These are people that aren't references: family members, coworkers who have not managed or supervised you, classmates, friends. It's great to have character references. It's great to have people that you've worked with that really sort of cheer you on. They're not the appropriate references that we're looking for. We need somebody who can be completely sort of unbiased, really focus on you as an employee or as an academic, and really understand who you were in those settings. So just keep that in mind. If you're having issues with acquiring references, you can reach out to our program and we can sort of help you with those options. But we really do hope that you have either one or the other, or two of one that you can provide with your application. But here's what you really want to focus in on. And this is the biggest tip I think you can take away from this presentation, because we've been seeing this problem consistently. You should be talking to your references. Really keep the line of communication open with them before you submit your application, when you submit your application, and as you're kind of waiting for them to fill out their documents. Talk to them about the program. Discuss what elements you see as being your strengths in this program. And basically what you want to do is ask them to provide you with positive comments and recommendations in the reference form that they're going to receive. You really want to talk about this. There shouldn't be anything hidden. This shouldn't be a surprise to the references that you're going to add to your application. Speak to these people ahead of time. Make sure you have their correct contact information. And by that, I mean you have a proper email address for them and it's entered correctly into your application. Too many times we've seen that references don't provide the correct email and they don't see it and they don't submit anything on your behalf. And then your application just sits in limbo and never gets completed. Make sure that you're encouraging them to provide you with a correct email address and that you're following up with them to see if they've received an email from sgsapp@queensu.ca. This is where the email is going to come from them. Once you submit your application, SGS actually kicks in and it emails your references a form that they fill out. They can include documents at that point, like a letter of reference, but you don't submit that. So just make sure that you are putting that into place and getting this all coordinated ahead of time. And if they haven't received a reference form, make sure they check their junk or spam mail. Talk about this ahead of time. And then if there's still issues, reach out to the School of Graduate Studies and Postdoctoral Affairs and get them to resend documents, or if there are errors with the email address, that you can get it updated at their level. I'm seeing in the chat from my team, can professional references come from clients if someone has been running their own business for the last 5+ years? Yes, we have seen that take place. We definitely do encourage you to get people who are in positions of authority, who have actually kind of seen you in action. I would say high-level clients would be great. So yes, they can be utilized in times of those situations. Just utilize the best individuals in a professional workplace that you can. Again, no colleagues, no friends, no family members, things along those lines. So again, all of the goals here that we're trying to do is to get your application to basically the completed stage where we receive it. The key is reviewing all the different elements from this presentation. It's getting your transcripts uploaded with your application or having them sent by your post-secondary institutions, having all of your transcripts identified, getting your references, the forms, making sure they submit them back on your behalf, uploading any documents that they may have. If they have a letter of reference for you, they can upload it at that point. Nothing comes from the applicant when it comes to references. and your ELPT scores. Make sure you have those ready to go and you can submit them to the School of Graduate Studies as quickly as you can. One final point before we get into Q&A is read everything you get from Queen's, from the immigration diploma email address, from the School of Graduate Studies. Make sure you read everything and you understand what is being asked and that you have all the login information, you have all the clarity that you need. It really is important to really understand what we're asking of you in email form, because it's our primary mode of communication. We don't have phone opportunities. We do these webinars occasionally, but we don't do any video conferencing. Everything is communicated via email. That's the way that we want to communicate with our applicants, our prospective students, our graduates. So it is really key to review everything and really understand what we're asking. All right. As I go through the frequently asked questions, go ahead and start populating the Q&A box if you have questions for our team or for myself. I'm going to ask my team to go ahead and start gathering kind of consistent questions. You can also vote on other people's questions if you find that there's something that you want to have answered, and I'll go ahead and read those out. But here are some frequently asked questions that we get a lot here. So is the program online? Yes, it is online. How much does the program cost? It's roughly $14,500. You pay per course per term, and there are some funding options through RBC's line of credit program that you can take advantage of. One of the things you can't take advantage of is OSAP. Our program is not OSAP eligible. Also, our program is not PGWP eligible. So for those individuals who are interested in the PGWP, our program doesn't count for that. Is this the only pathway to becoming a regulated Canadian immigration consultant? It is. We're the only English language pathway for people to become eligible for the EPE, so keep that in mind. And if for those individuals who've completed a previous immigration consultant program, what do you do? If you're within a certain window that the college sets out, you may still be eligible to take the EPE. If not, you'll have to reapply for our program and gain entry and complete all of our courses in order to be eligible for the RCIC EPE. Again, just another outline of our ELPTs. We accept IELTS Academic, CALE CE, TOEFL, IBT, and PBT. We do not accept IELTS General, CELPIP, or Duolingo. We only accept these four, so just keep that in mind. If you took your IELTS in 2017, like I mentioned, needs to be within the last 2 years from the date of your application. So that's not going to count. So again, if it's May 1st that you applied, it has to be May 1st, 2020 or younger. For this point, July 1st is now your deadline, or if you're still applying, just go 2 years back from the date that you apply. Anything older than that will not be eligible for use. We'll document these in the presentation, so you'll have this screen that you can pause on now. As I mentioned, the document deadline for the winter 2023 is September 15th, so make sure you have everything available. And let's talk about access pathway. So as I mentioned, there is an additional pathway for applications. It's called the access pathway. These are for individuals who don't quite meet the admission standards. And by that, I mean the GPA in your undergrad or the completion of your undergrad. This does not count towards the English language proficiency. You still need to meet the ELPT score requirements if you're an access pathway candidate. And it doesn't cover anything else. It's primarily only the education component or the grade 0.0, the GPA component of it. Basically, for individuals who want to apply because they don't meet the B, because they didn't complete their undergrad, definitely want to make sure that you submit your resume to immigrationdiploma@queensu.ca. Attach it to the email. Make sure your email flags your application reference number. Really is key to make sure that you're including this, because it is a key component of the access pathway application. Looks like we've got a lot of individuals in the chat today who have completed the immigration diploma program previously. If you have no other studies, if you've attended no university or completed an undergrad, you will apply via the access pathway. So you'll demonstrate your completion of your diploma program. So you'll submit whatever college degree or college diploma transcripts that you've done. You'll also then have to apply as access and include your resume in an email to our program. So that's the key there. If you've completed an immigration diploma college program and you've completed your undergrad, you can apply regularly to the program because you have that undergraduate background. If you didn't complete the undergraduate as well as you would want, you can still apply via access. There's no harm in applying for access. It allows us to utilize the resume. If you have the GPA that's well above the B average that's required on the Queen scale, and on the Queen scale, a B is a 3.0 on a 4.3 scale, that's fine. You don't have to apply as access. But for anybody who might be concerned that their studies aren't quite as strong as they think they are, go ahead and apply for access. We'll utilize whatever documents we can get in regards to your resume, your transcripts, your references, your ELPT scores to make an assessment on your application. So hopefully that clarifies that for anybody who studied at the college level. College program individuals are welcome. We welcome all applicants from anywhere. You don't even need a specific work permit wherever you're located. But we want to make sure that you utilize the access pathway if college is the only level of education you've completed, or if you haven't completed if you haven't completed your undergraduate completely, or if you just didn't have the GPA necessary to meet the B average. We get this question a lot as well. Is there anyone in the program you can talk to about their experience? So we encourage you to visit our program website. There's some great testimonials there. And we are in the process of working with some of our students and graduates to get some additional testimonials up on our Facebook and on our program website. So keep a look out there. Hopefully we'll have some more information for you. But those testimonials are fantastic. These are two great students of ours who I believe both have graduated now at this point, who have only positive things to say, which is fantastic. If you have any additional questions, we're going to try and cover the questions that are coming into the Q&A now. You can go ahead and email us at immigrationdiploma@queensu.ca. If you have a current application that you want to specifically reference, utilize your application reference number. It's a very long, I think 10 to 12 digit number, not your student number, which is only 8 digits. Utilize your application reference number and tie your question directly to your application. If you don't have an application yet, that's fine. You can also email us to ask any general questions about the program and the admission process. If you want to stay connected with us, as I mentioned, go ahead and visit us online, immigrationdiploma.queenslaw.ca, or you can follow us on Facebook. That is, again, where you're going to see the video of this presentation, as well as past videos. Other great posts about the admission process. Go ahead and follow us at facebook.com/QueensLawGDIPICL. That is the end of the slideshow. I'm going to go ahead and go back to this slide. I'm going to keep this up as I review the questions that are coming in. My team is here to answer questions to you directly. I'm just going to see if there's anything that I can address that is generally asked from the group. And if my team has seen anything consistently, go ahead and put it in the chat and I'll address it directly. I see a question here. If I apply under access and the admissions team gets to know that I fully qualify under normal as my degree got evaluated as B average, should my file be moved to normal? There will be no need to move anything from access to non-access or vice versa. Access, there's no qualification once a student becomes a student. Like once an offer is made, it's the same offer. Access is just going to allow us to utilize that resume to understand you a little bit better. And again, it's for those people who feel that they're borderline. If you're kind of back and forth when you think about your grade point average, no matter where you're from. I mean, we've seen international transcripts from an assortment of different institutions. Each one is going to be different. Each of you are going to be different when it comes to your applications. Think about your studies. Think about how you did. If you were pretty solid, if you feel that you're comfortable in achieving that B, access may not necessarily be needed for your application, but it's always there to be utilized when you're applying for the program. Feel comfortable utilizing it. The only additional requirement is that resume. Let's see what else. We have some questions in regards to prepayment plans and eligible students with income level caps. Those aren't details we can really provide here. The encouraging thing that I would do is get you to review the Queen's University Registrar's Office, specifically student fees, and see exactly what their website outlines when it comes to the payment plan and supporting students in paying their stuff. What do we consider a native English speaker? I've studied all my life in English. Do I qualify? Good question. Again, the elements when it comes to a native English speaker is that you've utilized English for much of your life. All of your studies have been in English, even like secondary, all of your high school, all of your post-secondary. If you come from a country where English is a primary language, we see a lot of countries where that's the case. Again, it's going to be dependent on what you've done in the past and that you've done no education to learn English. That's a really key thing. We see a lot of transcripts have English components, and it's not like English literature. It's actually English language. That might disqualify you from being a native English speaker just because it's a component of the education process, unless there is a native English component within the country. So just keep that in mind. It's a very tricky line to walk. We're going to have to ask our applicants to really consider if they think they need to submit that ELPT. If there's any question or any doubt, we encourage you to start looking into the ELPTs that we accept and think about taking the test anyway. It would really help out with the admission process. All right, let's see what else we have. We have a question asking if this program can be completed while living outside of Canada. Of course, our program is delivered entirely online. So you can do this program wherever you are located. There is no need to relocate to Canada or to Kingston if you're in Canada to take this program. There are currently no in-person course offerings. The only thing that we would encourage is that if you do graduate, you can always come to Queen's Convocation. We would love to see you in person at that point. Looks like people are asking about the link to the Facebook page. So let me go ahead and put that up on the screen. There it is there on the second line. Go ahead and find us on Facebook there and watch for the video. What size cohorts do we typically run? We don't typically provide the cohort sizes. I will say that fall is a larger cohort than winter. At tutorial sizes, though, we keep those very limited, no more than 30 students per tutorial. So you do have some great access to the instructors. And instructors do have their standard office hours. They have opportunities to interact virtually. So there are great access to our instructors who are all fantastic experts, many lawyers who are in the field who can provide you with some great perspective when it comes to the studies and beyond. When it comes to professional opportunities that you can utilize this education for, if you're not interested or not looking to become a regulated Canadian immigration consultant, there's so much you can do with the studies here in this program. Think about large corporations. Lots of them have international wings, and they're moving employees from one country to another. They need specialized individuals who understand immigration to really get a sense of how to easily move employees to make it as seamless as possible. That's a huge contingent of the individuals looking at taking our program. Governments are always looking for individuals who have done graduate level studies that are specific to immigration and citizenship. There's lots of great opportunities there. Smaller corporations are definitely interested in this. Startups, non-for-profits are also interested in this. Anybody who deals with migratory workers who need support. Locally, we have a lot of wineries who bring in a lot of employees. Those groups might benefit from having somebody who has some expertise in working with internationalized individuals. I think it would be a fantastic opportunity for anybody to take this and really grow any business on an international stage. And the final question of this individual is this program the only English pathway to becoming an RCIC? It is. We are the only English-speaking institution that is the pathway to becoming an RCIC. If you are French and you want to take the French program, review the Université de Montréal. They are the French language partner. Immigration consultant is very different than being an immigration lawyer. Law school is very different than what this program is, which is a graduate diploma from a law school. It's not a law degree. You don't practice law in this. You are specifically an immigration consultant who basically is a very hands-on client-based profession when it comes to the immigration process. These are people who are going to be helping people directly, help with those process, help with the paperwork, really see the benefits of their support and education when it comes to migration and immigration into Canada and globalization. There's a huge difference. There's opportunities later on in life, I'm sure, in law school for a lot of the individuals who take our program, but this is not a law school. You're not getting a law degree. Keep that in mind. There's some questions about transfer of credit from previous programs. It's very, very, very limited and it's case by case. I haven't seen anybody yet receive any transfer credits because the study is so different from the college level. You would probably be completing the 9 courses anyway. Even if you try to apply for transfer credit, you're always welcome to, but we haven't seen anything provided as of yet. We don't have any mature student designation. That doesn't exist at Queen's University. Everybody's considered equal when it comes to the application process. The key will just be to make sure that you're able to acquire the transcripts from your previous post-secondary. Master's degree from 2018, 2 professional references are completely fine. We understand it may be difficult to acquire an academic reference from a program that is now 5 years ago. So that's completely fine. Let's see if there's anything else I can. Again, for those who have their immigration diploma, you're able to apply as an access pathway candidate. If you've completed an undergraduate degree and your immigration diploma, you're welcome to apply regularly and just provide all of those transcripts if your undergraduate does meet the B average. If not, that's fine. You can apply as an access candidate as well. See if there's any other questions. I'll ask my team if there are any consistent questions coming up that I can vocalize. Please let me know. I'm seeing a question in regards to why would we not exempt individuals who completed their degree more than a year ago? These are the requirements that we have set out with our program. We have worked extensively with English language partners. We have an established School of English here on campus. This is the requirement. We see that a year is about the limit that people can start losing English language proficiency, and we need to see that there is still an ability to complete studies. It is the way that the admission process works. We're not going to change it. It's just the way that it is set. So if you do not fall within the exemption requirements, really do consider those ELPTs. So questions are still coming in. We're going to leave this open for a little bit longer. We'll probably close up in 10 minutes at 3:45. Again, the team's here to try and answer as many questions as we can. However, we know that we're not going to get to everything today. You will be able to view this video and hopefully some of those questions will be alleviated at that point. But if you do need to ask us any additional questions, immigrationdiploma@queensu.ca is where you can email us for some additional information. But again, hopefully the material today kind of clarified some things. If not, again, you're more than welcome to ask us, follow us on Facebook, and hopefully receive some answers as soon as we can. I'm seeing some questions about international credentials, how it might take a while for schools to deliver transcripts. Unfortunately, that is the case. We do see that a lot, that there are just individuals who aren't able to easily acquire transcripts. That's why we provide a pretty distant document deadline. If you apply now, September 15th should be fine to get transcripts delivered directly to the School of Graduate Studies and Postdoctoral Affairs. Don't delay. Try to upload whatever you can, but the requirement eventually for all of our students is that official documents will need to be delivered to the school anyway. So if that's the process, and if you feel that you're eligible for the program, I encourage you to really consider getting those transcripts delivered from your previous post-secondary as quickly as you can to the SGSPA office. Let's see if there's anything else I can answer. I'm going to go right down to the bottom here. And can a person working full-time apply and study? Full-time work with a full-time study plan is extremely difficult and discouraged. We can't say that you can't do it. We really don't recommend that. Part-time study is completely fine if you're able to do it. We really want you to, again, look into self-directed learning and really understanding your education and how you function in a classroom or a virtual classroom. But it is doable to still work and study, just not full-time, maybe full-time, part-time. See if there's any other questions that we can respond to. So I see some people are asking about the Queen's School of English Language ESLA 150 course. Again, those are available to those who are applying to fall. You'll identify your interest in taking that course on the application, and you would then have to meet all the admission requirements, save for the English language component. And then you would have to take a term, at least one term, and acquire an A grade in the Queen's School of English in the fall. And then you would begin your GDIP ICL studies in the following winter. It does add a term to your study, but if that's how you want to progress and gain your English language acumen in our program, that is okay. But again, it's only for fall. Ooh, something has fallen in my bag. I apologize. It's only for fall. We don't allow that for winter application. So just keep that in mind. All right, so a question here is in regards to those with master's or PhD, do they have to submit transcripts? We need to see all post-secondary transcripts. So while the basis of admission is primarily the undergrad, we do take a look at master's and PhD college level stuff and see your additional studies to support why we would be admitting you into the program. So make sure you flag all of your post-secondary studies that you've done. So for those who have applied and have submitted all of your documents and you've logged into the application system, make sure you are able to log into the system. That is the main means of seeing where your application is sitting. You may see that it says application submitted, even though all your documents are there. That's normal. There's nothing that changes when it comes to the actual status of your application. When you submit everything, just make sure you log in and see that SGS has received everything and that everything there says yes. That means everything's good to go. If you're worried, absolutely, you can send SGS an email and just find out what the status is, confirming that everything's good to go there. But at that point, it's more of just a waiting game. You'll just have to wait for us to begin our assessments and to provide offers in October, November. So it's a bit difficult if you've got all of your stuff early on, but keep on checking in with your application. It never hurts to read about the profession, to learn more on our program website, to follow us on Facebook, attend events. really is key to keep yourself apprised and informed, just as you're waiting for an offer of admission or a review of your applications. Let's see. Somebody was asking about utilizing a notary public if you have original copies of your transcripts. If your university doesn't or can't send transcripts directly, but you possess official copies of your transcript, yes, you can get them notarized, and you can then have the notary seal them and deliver them directly to the School of Graduate Studies office. Please note, though, that in those cases, your transcripts do become the property of Queens and they aren't returned. So if you're fine with utilizing your official documents and maybe they're your only copies, I would encourage you to make photocopies for your own personal benefit, but you can have a notary public review your official transcripts, seal them, and then you can send those into the School of Graduate Studies for your admission review, or if you gain admission, to satisfy the official document requirement. So that is okay. There are many reasons why WES credentials are not utilized in place of official documents. It's too much to get into at this point. All I can tell you is that the School of Graduate Studies and our program don't accept WES as satisfying the official transcript requirement. So you can submit them in support, but you will still need to submit your transcripts as outlined in this presentation. Can an applicant send third-party links to verify and upload transcripts to you? So probably this is questioning like things like MyCreds. If there are downloadable links, you can have those directly sent to the School of Graduate Studies, and they will download documents on your behalf. So if you have your school kind of upload things, and if they say it can be downloaded at this link, they can send it directly to grad.studies@queensu.ca. That would be completely fine. Is this open to only citizens, permanent residents? No, our program is open to all studies, whether you have status or no status in Canada. So keep that in mind. That's completely open. We don't require any specific permits for our program because there's no in-person component. But again, our program is also not eligible for any postgraduate work permits or anything along those lines. So hopefully that will help. I'm going to try and find one more question before we close out here. We'll see if there's anything particularly well voted on. See if anything has come out there. If I have a bachelor's degree, but the GPA is far less than a B, B plus, but I also have a diploma, recently graduated, that was a high GPA, how likely would I get admitted into the program? So that's a difficult question to answer. I would say it would be encouraging for you to send everything. And if you feel that your undergraduate is the problem, I would encourage you to apply via the access pathway. The primary basis of admission is that bachelor's degree and that transcript. So focus all of your attention on that, and everything else that you do is more supplemental to support your application. One final question. How many years of professional experience do I need for this program? That's great. I didn't cover that in this presentation. We need to see a professional resume that outlines at least 5 years of experience. Relevancy is very subjective. We try our best to associate a lot of different backgrounds, professional backgrounds, to the profession. So just make sure your resume outlines at least 5 years of your work. And let's see if I can find one more before we close out here. I will finish my undergraduate in 2023 winter. If I want to apply to the fall term, can I apply before April? Yes. So if your plan is to finish up your degree very soon, so either you're going to finish this fall, maybe next winter, so say April 2023, you're completing, yes, you can apply for the program, because during the portion of the document deadline, so April 1st, the application closes, May 15th is the document deadline. You can still get in your final transcript to us for assessment. So that's completely fine. The same does apply for individuals who are applying to winter. If you're finishing up your undergrad now, or you're finishing up a program now, you still do have time to get us a final transcript before September 15th. So you can apply for the program and potentially still get in for winter. I think that's as good a place as any to stop. There's still a lot of questions here. Of course, we couldn't get to everything. We greatly appreciate it. We got to a lot. So thank you very much to my team for doing that. We encourage you to follow us on Facebook, review all of our posts there. Hopefully that will clarify some of your questions. If you have anything more, of course, you can email us, immigrationdiploma@queensu.ca, or if you have an application in the system and you're interested in talking to somebody with the School of Graduate Studies and Postdoctoral Affairs who handle the application system, can talk to you about any of the documents that you've submitted, go ahead and email them as well, grad.studies@queensu.ca. In any email you send, reference your application reference number. If you don't have one of those, that's fine. We will review your questions. But if you have an application, it's easiest for us to connect your application to your question through that reference number. If you're watching this video later on, hopefully you found it informative. Hopefully everybody in attendance today found this informative, but just thank you very much for participating. We really do appreciate it. And again, we hope to see your application in the future. And if you have any questions, definitely don't hesitate to reach out or to watch this video. Thank you very much for attending, and hope everybody has a great day and a great weekend.